Okay, so we're gonna try edit mode again. And same as before, edit mode is gonna be a button here. It's gonna sit next to the delete button. And basically it's gonna toggle the form. So when we're in normal mode, we're just gonna see the task. And when we're in edit mode, we'll see an input that is able to be changed. So you can change the task. So the first thing we're going to need is to make sure that we have an edit to do function. So I'm just going to steal some of my own code here and not take too much. So this one provides an edit to do function. And we'll fix this little typo here. And here, all the deletes are going to become edits. Okay. And we have a lovely crash. Edit to do is not a function. And why is edit to do not a function? It's a good question. Of course, because we didn't actually implement it. So in the provider, we need to now have an edit to do function, which does not exist yet. And I'll put it here in alphabetical order. Edit to do takes in a to do, and it's going to set to dos and return the previous list. It's previous.map. Each to do, where if the current ID is equal to the edited one, then we want the edited one, otherwise we want the current one. That's pretty simple and straightforward. And now we just have to get that inside here. And again, we'll put them in alphabetical order. So edit to do is going to be values. Edit to do, again, preferring the test itself so that we can dependency inject. Otherwise, edit. This is values. Save that. We now have a passing test. So our to-do provider now does provide the edit to do function, and we can go ahead and start implementing it in the to-do itself. So the code that I want to write here is going to have a button for editing to-dos. And because it does, basically, I'm just going to make another component here. I'm going to say function button edit. And it's going to handle click just like the other one. And we're going to return a button data test ID equals button edit, and type equals button, so it doesn't refresh the page. And on click is going to equal handle click. Here we're going to just say edit. There's something here. There we go. Something's wrong. We need a close here. Okay. So yes, I wrote this function before I wrote the test, which is a little bit backward, but I'm going to write a failing test right now. Here I'm going to say this. It has an edit button. And all of this stuff here So with this one, oops, the delete button gets handed a handle click, and this one is going to be the same. So here we're going to take out edit to do, and before we do that, I want to make sure that this fails. So the edit button, this is going to be edit to do, and this is going to get button edit. And here I'm going to save this. This should fail. Okay, good. So now we're going to bring him in here. We're going to have btn edit. Handle click is going to equal handle edit. Now, actually, I have a problem here. And the reason why I have a problem here is that this edit button doesn't actually work the same way as the other. So I can't do it like this. This is not a valid way to test this. This one is never going to get called here. So the way this is going to work is here we're going to click this and we're going to go into edit mode. So here we're going to have to expect an input or get the input, right? So here we're going to get the input, then we're going to type into it, then we're going to submit it. And finally, we're going to expect it to have been called and all that. So, yeah, so in order to go into edit mode here, we need to now say, so we have this custom render. Now we have to say const input equals screen.get by role. So we have a problem now. The problem is going to be that the role that we want is input, but there's more than one. There's an add form still on the page, right? If I do screen.debug here, we should see an add button on the page, I think. Well, let me first make sure that this is not a complete disaster. No, we do not have an add form on the page, which means that this is safe to do. Okay, then I should be able to screen, so I should be able to say const input equals screen dot get by role text box. And of course, this will fail. Unable to find, oh yeah, we have to fix the rest of this. So let's make a function edit. Okay. There we go. And now we don't have a role for text box. So we need to now make sure, we need the toggle switch here. So we need a piece of state here. The first thing we need to do is make sure that by default, the form is not actually shown. So it does not show the edit form in normal mode, right? So basically what we're saying here is So we're going to have a to do and a render so that it doesn't die. And I'm going to say it dot only for this test. Right? And now I want to say screen or const UI equals screen dot query by role text box. And then I want to expect UI to be null. Okay, so this appears to be passing. And yeah, so now I'm not going to skip this one anymore. I'm going to save this. And if I take the sort of cheater's way out of this, or try to anyway, that's what that last test was for. If I were to put an input here, input type equals text box. Now it should fail that other test that I just wrote. Does not show the edit form in normal mode. So that's pretty important, okay? So the truth is that when I wrote the to-do form before, it's basically the same thing, right? So I think that I would like to, I think I'm gonna bring in this to-do form, the same one, okay? And when I do, I'm going to need to start changing the way this works, right? So either I bring in this one and reuse it, or I will need to just make another one in here. Actually, for the moment, I'm going to make another one in here, and then later, if it makes sense, we'll refactor this to use just that other one. So in here, now I have this, and what I need is when we click the edit button, I want to show the other form. So we need another piece of state. So we don't have any state. We don't have the use state hook. So we're going to import use state from React. And here we are going to const show edit form set show edit form equals use state false. So by default, we're not going to show it. And now in here, I'm going to change this a little bit. So we're going to say if show edit form, then I'm going to have a form here. With an input type equals text box. Otherwise, I'm going to show a div with to-do task. And now we're unable to find the text box, and the reason is that handle edit doesn't actually do anything yet. So here, I want it to set show edit form to be whatever the last thing was, and then flip it. The reason is that I'm going to be able to turn this button into a cancel button later. Okay? So now we finally passed this test. This, however, has not been called. And this is, we reached a little deeper into our test. We're down here now. Right? So this part so far is passing the test. And now we need to type into the input. So in order to do that, we're going to have to import user event from the testing library user event. And I like to put an extra line between my imports and theirs and the third-party ones. So now we're gonna say user event dot type, and here we need the element, which is the input, and then what we're gonna type is to do dot task. But actually, that's not really what we want. We need a new one, right? So I need to modify this. So I'm going to call this one new to do dot task, and I'm going to say up here const new to do equals dot 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 to do comma task is updated task. Okay. Here. Okay. Now we need to submit the form, and when I submit this form, this form needs to change things around a little bit. So this form is going to have to submit, and we need state to track what's in this input. So here I'm going to need another piece of state. We're going to say const task and set task equals. The original thing is going to be to do that task. That will show automatically in here if we use it. So this is going to be value equals task. And the onChange handler for this is going to be the same as for the other one. So take the event and return e.target.value. Cannot read property of undefined reading task. So this is going to be to do dot task, I guess nullish coalescence and nothing. Okay. So why was it empty? I don't know yet. But at this point, we can submit the form. So when we submit this form, we are going to need an onSubmit handler. So this handle edit is not it. We need a function handle submit, really. Handle submit edit, I guess, which is kind of terrible. I think I'm gonna just inline this one. So form on submit equals, we'll make a thing here. We need the event because we need to prevent default. And then we are going to call our edit to do function, which we get out of here. And I can undo this now. We have to actually submit the form. So in order to do that, we can either type enter. We can just type enter here. So this is going to be plus enter. That way. Okay. And just to be sure, if I prevent the default, and then we'll console log. Console.log. Okay. Yeah, so that ran, which means that we are successfully submitting our form. So now we can call edit with dot to do comma. And when everything is done here, we want to make sure that we clear out the input. So we're going to set task to be an empty string, and actually this needs to set task. Right. And this one, so because by default it had already something in it, we typed on top of it. That's what's happening here. So either I have to not have something by default, or I have to back it out. The easiest way to do this is probably to back it out in a loop. So here I'm going to say delete the old task. So we'll say for let I equal 0, I is less than task dot, or what is it? To do dot task length I plus plus. And we'll say user event dot type input comma backspace. I hope that works. It did, and now this needs to have been called with to do. There we go. Okay. One, and now I can refactor this a little bit. Actually, those comments are not terrible. So we'll do this. This can go above. Go into edit mode, get the input, do that. Enter the new one. Okay, so now we have our edit functionality and all tests are passing. However, we also now need to be sure that the screen, that the input is no longer visible. So we're going to now say this again. This is going to be expect screen query by role. Whenever you want it not to be there, you have to use query dot to be no. This should fail now because I have not changed it. It got that. So in here now, when it's all over, we're going to also set show edit form to false. That passes the test. Okay, so that is the basic edit functionality settled. Now, one question is, while the form is running, this delete button is still showing, and the edit button actually says edit, which is kind of terrible. So let's make a couple more tests here. So first of all, it does not show the delete button in edit mode, right? As a test, it dot to do does not show button in edit mode, and it changes edit button label to cancel in edit mode. Okay. This doesn't make any sense otherwise, and we do want a way to get back. So we're going to start with this one. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take a lot of the other tests and just repeat it here. So we're going to start with this part here and click it. We don't actually need this new one. We don't care. And we need edit to do in order for it not to crash. But that's the only reason. So now we click the button, we go into edit mode, and we're going to expect screen.query by test ID button delete to be null. This is going to fail. Okay. And so now we're going to fix this test by saying only show me button delete if not show edit form. Okay, so that's the first one. Then we're going to say on this one, in edit mode, we're going to change it to cancel. So we have to say now, so here we need all of this again. And now we have to expect button to have text content. Yes. Instead, we got edit, right? And we can also, in the beginning, expect it to have the content edit. We can do that in the edit button itself here. So we can expect beforehand, right here, before we click it, I want to expect button to have text content edit. And this is a little bit of a brittle test just because we can't really change it now without breaking the tests. So maybe not the absolute best way to do this, but for now, this is fine. So the edit button needs a way to know whether or not we are in edit mode. And basically, I'm going to pass it show edit form. Well, either that or I'm going to pass it a label. I'm just going to pass it the label. So the label equals, and this is if it's show edit form. That means that the form is showing, so we want to send in cancel. Otherwise, the form is not showing, and we want to send in edit. Okay. So with that, we're going to come up here now and set this to be a label. And this is going to become a label. And all our tests are passing now. So let's go take a look at it for a second here. Everything seems to be in order. This type into it doesn't need to be there anymore. This doesn't really need to be there. This can stay. Okay. Okay, so are we running all of them? We are. We're running all of the tests. We have implemented edit mode now. So I'm going to go ahead and commit git add all git commit -m. This is a feature of edit to-dos and implement Okay, that concludes this video. In the next one, we will work on marking a to-do as finished.